Thank you.
I've
been known to let a couple slip here and there.
You can slip all you want. It's okay. It's okay on
this
this
is a
podcast.
cursing. You can let it rip.
We can't sometimes project how negative we are about a movie unless we curse.
Yeah, I hear you.
So we just finished the panel with you.
Okay.
Which I don't know if
Yeah,
like I said before.
I tried to talk as least as possible so that the other two guys were talking. I realized, oh my God, I should have talked more.
Well, we got you for a while. We could talk all kinds.
You know.
We were surprised to get that panel. I don't know if you know, but like we got that panel 9:00 last night.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
No.
Luckily,
Wow.
we were already prepared for you guys. So plus we've already done it before. But yeah, we got a call at 9:00 last night and said, "Is there any chance you guys can do the the moderation for the Star Wars panel?" I'm like, "It's 9:00. It's tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon." So we're like, you know what? Forget it. We'll do it.
You guys did well. I mean,
It was fun.
Yeah.
You guys did all the work, heavy lifting. It was fun.
Oh,
Well,
I think we asked 4 questions and you guys just took
went for it.
it. Took it. Well,
Are we on now?
yeah,
We're on.
We're
We're conversational. let's
Okay.
just say.
So, actually, you know what? We did a little bit of background in there. We're going to actually release that We're going to release that panel as a podcast. So we already got some of your
There
background.
was good
in there.
info there.
Yeah,
There was
really good stuff. in
but
there.
we want to.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into some more stories
Okay.
I've listened to one of the podcasts you were on, the Placerville one,
Right.
and I was like, oh man,
That was heavily edited because most of my stories they left out. That was very
Why?
PC. I don't know. I was really surprised because I gave
We,
them some
we,
good
like
stuff.
I said, we're not
We
PC.
don't do
so
that.
Yeah.
whatever they left out, let us know right now.
I think they tried to make it more family oriented.
It seemed like
And
it
I
was like cable access.
Yeah, and I kind of went into the
public
weeds,
access.
in
Yeah, yeah.
terms of how a lot of us old school guys look at some of the new stuff, and I think they steered away from controversy.
Oh well, then I want to know that. Let's start off with that right there.
I want to hear about the parties at the Playboy Mansion and stuff like that. That's
I wish.
Well, let's get into that right now. Tell me what you think about the new stuff coming out right now.
Well, I personally don't really care for it.
Well,
and I've
when I
served.
say new stuff, I mean Star Wars, or you mean like everything?
I mean the newer Star Wars,
Okay.
and I think part of it is a generational thing. I was one of the guys who worked on the trilogy, which consider a lot of us,
the Holy Trilogy.
the Holy Trilogy, and a lot of us were there at the very beginning. I was there talking to Ralph McQuarrie, who used to work in the aerospace business. And he came up with a lot of the images for Darth Vader, the look of the movie. I was there when Joe Johnston was creating the looks, the Ewoks, the look of Jedi. So I'm talking to, as they say, the primary sources, the people that
The
were
Godfathers.
Yeah, and so I was in awe of Richard Edlund. Richard worked. Here's a story. Richard worked for basically nothing on the first Star Wars. I don't know if you guys know this, but he essentially told George, I'll work for practically nothing if I get 1% of the receipts from Star Wars. Became an instant millionaire.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys know that?
We were
but those are great stories.
Those are great. We were just talking about the Spielberg
Spielberg
deal
had one, yeah.
with them.
Spielberg had a bet with Lucas about whose movie that summer would make more
Close
money.
Encounters or Star Wars. And he's like, I'll take that bet. And they did too.
Because Spielberg actually bet on
Right.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Lucas bet on Close Encounter.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah.
That's a great story.
So, he won out, and Spielberg has 2.5% stake in Star Wars. So I mean,
Are you serious?
I just read that the other day, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
I knew there was a bet. I
Yeah.
didn't know it was Close Encounters. I thought it was Jaws, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it
It's
ended up
Close
being Close
Encounters.
Encounters.
I mean, you're
And it was
talking
funny
millions
that
for doing nothing.
They bet on
Yeah.
each other's. They bet on the other person's work.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like Lucas
My
saying
work's
Star
better.
Wars is going to be better than Close Encounters, Spielberg's like, no, I think Star Wars is going to be better than what I'm doing.
Yeah. And some of that is just tapping into just the national consciousness. Nobody had ever seen a movie like that. And when I say it's a generational thing, see, our generation, I'm 60 now. Okay, when I worked there, I was 25. I was, I was one of the younger guys there, but we were weaned on, Gunsmoke.
Oh, yeah.
Cowboys and Indians. I mean, you don't see that on TV anymore.
No,
And
not so
I was
much.
weaned on movies, TV series like Combat. Okay, so do you remember there's that scene in Star Wars where Luke Skywalker grabs Princess Leia and they kind of swing across?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's Tarzan and Jane.
Tarzan,
I
yeah.
grew up with Tarzan.
Right.
So a lot of that you can't recreate in the new movies. A lot of that is such a cultural phenomenon that when you look at characters like Han Solo, I mean, he's wearing, I don't know if you noticed, he's wearing Confederate stripes, right?
Oh, right.
Kinda, down the leg of the
We grew up with that sort of stuff. So a lot of those social cues, those social triggers, are meant for our generation. Is somewhat lost in the generation now. So when I say I didn't particularly care for it, I think there is that possibility also that I'm not being triggered by the social cues. It's lost on me. The last movie was, to me, filmed too dark.
The Force Awakens.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was talking to Ben Burt, and I go, "So what did you think of it?" I talked to people who worked on the movie, and they go, "I think it was just shot way too dark." But then he's going, "But that's kind of in right now.
Yeah.
Shooting
Yeah.
movies a stop darker with natural light." Okay, so a lot of that I just don't right away. I'm uncomfortable with that feel and that look. And then the other thing was, I mean, having worked on it, I can't visualize the Empire on a Hawaiian island.
Oh, you talking on Rogue One?
Yeah.
On Scarif?
I just didn't get that. I'm just like, to me,
It felt like that was way out of left field.
Yeah,
Like
that-
that was the one thing I was like a little jarring to me too.
Yeah, and even the movie poster. I mean, the movie posters were pretty much created a career of Drew Struzan. He created that whole Star Wars look. And then when I saw the movie poster of the Death Star with the Hawaiian with the palm trees,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm not getting it. I'm not feeling it. So you're talking about somebody who worked on it, who knows a lot of the principles,
Right.
Yeah.
and I'm just not getting the energy. But at least, I'm looking at it from from a guy who was there,
Yeah.
just not feeling. But then again, I don't think you could recreate that era anymore.
Well, when you watch a movie, like I know for us, and we're in no ways consider ourselves really great podcasters. But sorry, but like you're
you
always
gotta ask
judging
good
your
questions. You ask good questions, and then you're a good
you're just
podcaster.
judging your work, right? So for me, like when I listen to somebody else's podcast, I'm like, oh, that's really bad, or that's great. I like what they're doing here. So when you watch a movie, do you watch it as a matte painter, or do you just look at the movie as a movie?
That's a great question, because I think after I left, about 10 years, I would still look at a movie as a matte painter. It's like they got the lighting wrong here, or the matches aren't good, or they could have been better with that. Now I go more for storyline. So it's almost like I've gone through a class of being desensitized as a former employee. So I'm looking at the storyline more. Good example in the previous remake, where Han Solo's son has that weird energy with him. See, I just didn't get that because they didn't develop it. What did he take away his bicycle? Did he spank him?
Why did he become Why did he become evil?
Yeah, why
Right.
did he be there? It wasn't developed, so that one left me hanging. I know a lot of people like that movie, but to me there were just so many unanswered questions. And I'm
Yeah.
still a fan of the movie, although I tend to be a little bit probably more critical than the average fan.
Being part of the original trilogy, and I can't believe I get to actually ask someone like you who's actually worked on the original trilogy. So this has been my theory. I think your theory too, for the Force Awakens. I when I first watched the Force Awakens, I loved it because it reminded me of the original trilogy,
Right.
the OG. Like you went back, hey, that's not all shot on a green screen or blue screen in your era.
Right.
And they went back to practical effects. Essentially, though, a year almost removed from 2 years removed
2
from
years,
the
yeah, almost, yeah.
looking back on that movie, I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's basically A New Hope. But my theory is this, and you can agree or not agree. Maybe you might not want to agree with me because you're still, you're going to that 40th anniversary thing. But my theory is...
Did I hear a little bit of jealousy?
Oh, I'm definitely jealous.
Just a tad.
Envy?
But my theory is that The Force Awakens had to be made the way that it was made, with the story that it was, the story that I was told, because of how polarizing and divisive the prequels were. Meaning, like, they had to make The Force Awakens to kind of fix the issues.
Bring people back.
Bring people back and say, remember the thing that you loved?
Right.
We understand that. Here's kind of what it was like, and we're going to push it in a new direction.
Yeah.
But here's a big me jumping on my soapbox saying we are not the prequels.
Right.
Even though it basically was A New Hope, I feel like they had to make that movie. Now, if the new movie comes out and they're on Hoth and somebody gets shoved inside
If a Wampa cuts someone.
like if Ray gets stuck inside some person's guts and they're on Hoth, I'm gonna be mad because now you've brought me back. But do you think that do you have that same thinking about that?
Well, when I saw the movie, and I have canvassed a lot of ex-ILM employees and friends of mine from that era. It just seemed like we're going to do a best of, okay? We're going to take highlights from the bar scene. We're going to take some Endor scenes, some Hoth scenes. We're going to give you a little bit of Han Solo, a little tap dance here and there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it seemed like a giant infomercial to me. My kids were on my case because I said, no, I'm going to go alone. I don't want to go with you guys.
Right.
My son David came home and said, Dad, I love the movie. I just love the movie. And I said, okay, I'm going to go see it by myself. So what'd you think? And he goes, oh, you're crazy. Well, that's just it. I think it's a generational thing because and George was interviewed. You guys hear his
He was
thoughts?
right, though.
He was right. He was right. He wasn't a big fan of it. He's like, you guys went retro with this.
Yeah.
Or basically told the same story.
Same story.
Yeah. And then I think everybody's probably heard his thoughts. He was asked, when he sold the franchise, he gave them the treatments.
Yep. For what he was going to do.
And I've been told they told him it wasn't Star Warsy enough. Disney told George Lucas that his treatments weren't Star Warsy enough. Okay, and
the guy that created it.
Yes,
essentially.
and I see stuff like that drives me crazy when I hear that, because what's happened is now Disney, this giant corporation now, is going to create this manneristic, vision of what they think Star Wars should look like for generations to come. And I think in some ways that's good for the trilogy because people will go back there and go, hey, this is where it really had some soul, okay?
Right.
And I don't think you can recreate it because the generation that created it, we're sending triggers of things that were familiar. So in some ways, Star Wars was an accumulation of everything, kind of like what's his face, Flash Gordon.
Yeah,
you've seen a little bit.
Serials.
A lot of serials.
Yeah. George liked Dune,
and they just don't have that kind of thing anymore.
And George liked Dune, so he's lifted bits from Dune in there, and he admits that, and he's a fan of Joseph Campbell.
Hero.
The hero
of the Thousand Faces,
the Japanese, the samurai movies.
Kurosawa.
Right.
So the first three movies is kind of an entire blend of everything George had synthesized. He's a great syncretist synthesizer of popular culture, as well as reading books like Dune, et cetera, and with Joseph Campbell, finding the hero, something happens to him, it changes him. He has to. He can't just stay himself. He has to transform. He has to become a Jedi Knight, right?
Right. And
then he's on a quest, and in that formula, you see that all the time. That's Rocky, right? Hey, Adrian, all of a sudden, he has to change.
Right.
And yes, it's a great formula. And every generation has to find something that kind of fits into that formula that works for them.
Yeah. So I looked at a lot of the movies and everything that you were involved in. It was a pretty crazy time for you. Were you? So this is a nerds podcast.
Yeah.
Were you like growing up? Did you do a lot of doodling? I mean, were you
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of like a comic book nerdy a little bit, or
I was a big fan.
or influenced by that?
Oh yeah, I was a big Hot Rod fan, Big Daddy Roth, Rat Fink. I mean,
Oh my
I used
gosh.
I used to love doing these models of Wolfman, Godzilla.
wow.
I was low. I love that stuff. I was gonna say I love that shit, but I did.
Yeah.
I love the hot rod stuff. I loved and George did too. That whole thing of racing.
Yeah,
drag
it's
racing.
evident in the pod racing.
Yeah,
and the-
with Cha-Cha Muldowney, and
Oh,
the
Lord.
mongoose, all that kind of stuff. That was part of my culture. And in fact, one of the guys who did the documentary of that kind of drag racing eventually got hired at Lucasfilm just for making that movie.
It's crazy.
Richard Edlund designed the pig nose, which was little pig nose amplifier. And I might be a little bit before your time.
Yeah, a little
These
bit.
were all kind of cultural elements that kind of found their way subconsciously into the first three. And that's one of the reasons why I think they're going to last, because it's a cultural phenomenon. And, I think if the new movies, they're going to be strong if they trigger a newer cultural, instead of trying to
Yeah.
be so retro.
Right.
Yeah, bring some of that back, but and maybe what loses me. I was talking to Dennis Murin over at ILM a year ago, and he goes, Frank, it's a totally different generation. They're designing these movies like gaming now, okay? Because they know the attention span, the
It's
visual
short.
is very short.
It's the
Yeah.
smartphone
And
generation too.
And your average, and my son's one of them. Your average gamer seeing things blow up. It's moving fast. You're directing the action, so they're impatient if something's not moving. Moving fast. So you're never gonna see the pacing. If you look at the pacing of the original Star Wars, there's a lot of dialogue. It's pretty slow.
Yeah.
You fast forward to today, things are blowing up and people are getting dismembered pretty quickly,
think-
because the attention span has
They
been,
move
has
from
accelerated.
action scene to action scene, and sometimes
Yeah.
the action makes no sense.
But I feel like, and I'm kind of in the middle of that era. Like he saw Star Wars in theaters. I never saw a single Star Wars in theaters until the prequel.
How old are you?
44.
You're 44, so you're
Yeah.
still kind of
I
young.
was
I'm
4 years
38.
old when I saw
Okay.
it.
So,
Okay.
so I'm in that middle era, and I feel like some of the studio executives trend too much with trendy things.
Well, that's the
With-
business, unfortunately.
Because what bothers me to no end sometimes when I hear like an executive say like nobody's going to sit in the theater for 3.5 hours. Bullshit. If you give me a good movie
Yeah.
for 3.5 hours, I will sit. If you give me Braveheart, I'm going to sit in that theater for 3.5
Yeah.
hours. If you give me
Lord of the
Batman v
Rings.
Superman,
Yeah.
I'm going to be pissed.
I guarantee you a 3-hour Godfather.
Right.
I
Yeah.
would be there.
Right. So would
I don't know why. It's just something about da 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 da.
But because the movie
It was
good.
riveting.
It's
That's
and
why.
why? Because you somehow, on a gut level, those characters connect with you,
Well, that's what-
and you want to see what happens to them under different circumstances. I would watch 4 hours of a Godfather
Well,
movie if it was done well. I'm serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I think that's the key right there. Is our favorite movies now the big blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
The movies that we actually enjoy the most are when the studios or the writers and the director understand the character and show you the character that who
Right.
that character is.
Right.
You could blow up 50 states for all I care. It wouldn't matter because Independence Day, the one that got released last year.
Right.
You're gonna blow up a planet? Great. I don't care about anybody on this planet, and I live on this planet.
And I don't care if they get killed either.
Right, exactly. Like it doesn't matter to me.
Well, that was the
what's
problem
going
with the
on.
last movie, when the chick got killed and I didn't care. I'm sorry, I just didn't care.
You're
I
talking
didn't
about Rogue One?
Yeah,
Rogue One,
last.
the Rogue One.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was hard to
I
care.
just didn't care.
It was.
There was a-
It was hard to because there really wasn't enough time. Like now they fill it in with comic books and books.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's a book about Jyn Erso
Right.
coming out, so you'll read
Right.
that, and then it'll give you this more appreciation when you watch Rogue One.
Right.
But for us going to the theater, we're like, we
The
don't
only
have that
people-
background.
The only company that seems to get the character of actually forming characters is probably Marvel right now, where they
Pixar,
took like 20
Marvel.
movies. They took 20
Pixar
movies.
too, yeah.
Oh, definitely Pixar.
Yeah.
Marvel takes like 20 movies to get to where they are now. So you've been through the grind with all these characters. And are you a fan of the Marvel Studios movies?
Oh yeah, well, I'm a big fan of the Netflix Marvel stuff.
Oh,
You know, if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
talk to if you see some of these major actors like Dustin Hoffman, he's an old-time actor, and he was saying the best stuff that's happening right now for actors and for keeping the media and film going is the series on Netflix and Amazon.
Right.
Yeah.
I love I love the Marvel series. A couple that I've seen on.
hopefully Daredevil.
Huh?
Not-
Daredevil. I love Daredevil.
Not Iron Fist though.
You know,
Did you see Iron Fist?
I don't know.
You
I
could
can't
probably
s-
stay away from it.
Yeah,
it's
but
not. It's not good.
Yeah, but Daredevil I thought was
Yeah,
great.
it's really good.
Yeah.
Daredevil was, and I like a lot of the things I'm seeing on Amazon. You know.
Right.
It's just great programming. They're
yeah.
able to do more
Well,
than
they're
what the
able-
regular
what-
networks
Yeah,
can do.
I mean, good example is Breaking Bad. I love Breaking Bad. Hopefully, we got some
Yes,
Breaking
one of
Bad
our
fans here.
absolute
favorites.
And of course, one of my favorite characters was Saul Goodman. You know, it's Saul Goodman.
Better Call Saul.
They made that because his character was so interesting. They knew we wanted to know how did he get to be the way he got to be.
Right.
Which is essentially what you're seeing in some of the the later Star Wars. How did Darth Vader become so bad, right?
Right.
And that's the formula for Better Call Saul. So you're seeing that development in Netflix and Amazon, and it's a great thing for actors.
What are you actually binge watching right now? Are you so busy that you can't binge watch anymore, or is there something?
Oh no, I binge watch a lot. I love movies. I love more storyline. You know, like I said, I'm hooked on Better Call Saul. You know.
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank right now. I'll probably,
There's so many. I mean,
Well,
there's
what about-
so many shows.
You had mentioned stories in the panel. You got like so many stories.
Yeah.
Well, now I want to give you the opportunity to give me your favorite George Lucas story. Your personal, like
you
this
mean
happened-
run-ins with George? Or,
Yeah, yeah.
or-
Your favorite, like George Lucas, that like it cracks you up, or this is something you can't believe because it's it's George Lucas, like something. Your
Something
favorite
that
George
probably
Lucas
won't
story.
piss him off though.
Does that piss him off? Well, I'll start with this one. You know, like a lot of people in my generations, I was just amazed that I got a call.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to run the panel, but from what you heard from the panel, we all kind of got in differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got a phone call, and I'm happy to this day that I actually answered the phone. Okay. and
If it had caller ID, you'd be like, I'm not answering
yeah,
that.
but that's just again, that's being prepared
Yeah.
and being at the right place at the right time. So when I was at when I was at ILM, they put us in the screening room and they said, okay, George is going to come through the company now, and he's going to look at everything you've done for Jedi up to that point, and he's got a lot of people. He's real busy. They talked to, and I think it was Tom Smith, but they talked to us kind of like we were children. You know, he's going to come in, have him address you, get in, get out. You know, don't be overly wordy, and show him what you've done. He's going to ask you, and then on to the next department. So, I'm 25 years old. This is my opportunity to meet George Lucas, right?
Oh.
So, in walks my boss, Tom Smith, was running George's Industrial Light and Magic. In walks, the company photographer, Terry Korsner. In walks Joe Johnson, okay, because they're all reviewing everybody's work. And I was working on the matte painting of the elevator shaft that Darth is going to throw the Emperor down.
Oh,
Right.
You know that final scene.
Awesome
Well,
scene.
that's my matte painting. Okay, so I'm a little scared because I'm thinking I've painted it a little too blue, and it was somewhat desaturated, you know, in the film.
In the post.
So I see George, he walks in, and I figure I'm just gonna go for it. I walk up to him and I give him a big bear hug. He goes, "George, so glad to meet you. I'm so happy to work for you." And he like stiffens up, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And he just kind of looks at me, and I'm looking at Tom Smith, and he's looking at me like, "I can't believe you're hugging, dude. You're
You're like,
hugging
it's the end of
George,"
the
you know.
movie. I don't care.
Yeah. And so that's the start of my relationship with George. And I would end up, I lived in Marin County, we're sitting at a table with him like this and talking, and frankly, he's a lot more conversational now.
Oh,
when
yeah,
I
for
see
sure.
him. In fact, we as a company would learn more about George through interviews on the Rolling Stone. In fact, in Rolling Stone magazine, he did an article where he actually says, you know, I'm paraphrasing here, actually kind of shy around my employees. I don't really know how to interact with them, which was true. You could just tell
Maybe he just wasn't comfortable being the
well,
boss or something.
Well,
like,
his career accelerated. Think about it. Here's a guy who's fairly shy, but's got a lot of ideas, and his career and his title has accelerated from American Graffiti, which was kind of a hit,
was
but with
big,
Star
yeah.
Wars, and then after the success of Star Wars, went zoom. You know, where
Yeah.
he's now big boss man, and so. That's a huge responsibility, and I don't know.
Big time.
I
A lot
don't
of
know-
companies,
I don't
yeah.
know if I would do any better, having it's just like you guys being one day you're here in West Sacramento, next moment you're in New York, you're the biggest thing, and you've got a spot on MSNBC. It's like your income is shot up like that. Now you've got your own green room,
Yeah.
people tapping you,
And then we're,
and now you've got your own publicity.
We're both divorced.
Well,
We're both,
our
have a-
salary right now for this podcast is 0, so anything above 0 is
But
doubling it.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, totally.
The
It can happen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, last night we didn't think we'd be doing a panel,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
all of a sudden.
yeah.
So yeah, you're right. It's all about being prepared. It's all
and
about
things happen so quickly. I mean, how would I know I do the opening to ET or work on Wrath the Khan? Work on Wrath the Khan, you know.
Oh,
And-
wait, I was going to ask you what because I've seen that movie a million times, but
Yeah.
what matte painting did you do? Vulcan or
I did.
you do
I did the Eden Cave.
the Eden Cave?
Yeah, where he goes, "Oh, look at the Eden Cave."
Yeah.
I also did. Again, I was new at the company, so I did things like that. I did all the nebulas. I painted nebulas, and frankly, the truth be told, I was doing people in portraits. So all this
Yeah.
I was learning on the fly.
Landscaping, essentially.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
And that's why it was such a marvelous opportunity for me, because I just took full advantage of just learning from
So-
some of the other artists there.
So you never said, like, if it said, hey, we need this thing, you never say, like, I don't know how to do that. You just like, I'll get on it.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
What do you, I mean,
Yeah, you have
Go
to have
home,
a
work
little
it
bit
out.
of chutzpah. I mean,
yeah.
come on. You're around a lot of people who know what they're doing, and you just you got to go with it. You got to give it. You got to give it your best. I got to give it the Frank Ordaz best. Because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's kind of like your podcast here. What if somebody gets it and likes it and sends it to somebody else? You don't know.
you don't know, right?
And to somebody who's influential, who can do something for your career. So it's like, and then everybody at that time is gunning for my spot.
Right.
And how do I know that? Because you could see the letters coming in. I would like to work in the math department, blah, 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 blah. And people,
I'll
how can
sweep
I
the
get
floor.
a job? How can I get a job there? I sweep a floor, but that they don't want to sweep a floor.
Right.
They want your job. That's the environment you're in. You got to bump somebody off. Now there's actually more opportunity because to do a shot, you've got people who are going to paint the clouds, you're going to paint the trees, who's going to paint the buildings. Things are a little bit more specialized now. Back then, I would do the entire matte shot, with some additions of live action, of course, but
Right.
it was a totally different world. We had so
Yeah.
much freedom. We had so much opportunity. I mean, I helped in the model department.
You blew something up too.
I blew things up. I helped them blow things up. Yeah.
On that other podcast, I heard
Yeah.
that you got to blow up Jabba's barge.
Jabba's barge.
No
It was
way.
great. And when things like that were happening,
That would never happen today.
they would tell us, "Hey, we're going to do this. Okay, we need you guys to." And I forgot we had to hold some levers for some things. I worked on the huge model for Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. You know the mine shaft scene. You know
Yeah, yeah.
that shaft. Well, I worked on that model. For 2 weeks, just gluing all the trusses together.
But could you
It
imagine
was
happening that nowadays, where like you're
It
hired to
wouldn't- it
do the
wouldn't
visual
happen.
effects, and they're like, hey,
Yeah.
by the way, Bob, we need you to go blow up something.
Yeah.
Go downstairs and go blow up the stuff we need you to blow
And
up.
then we need you at catering.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah,
some food.
and talk about politically incorrect. They needed some people who look somewhat Indian or Arab-like.
Oh, no.
So I was an extra with the loincloth and a turban in Indiana Jones.
In the
Where's
Temple
the
of
P-
Doom?
where's the
In the
PR
temple-
where's the PR shot for that?
I got paid $1. What?
Where's the PR shot for that?
I've got a couple shots of that.
No.
I'm not gonna show anybody myself in a loincloth though. but it was that type of
No way.
type of company, and then walking, I remember you run into all these celebrities. So people ask me, do you miss it? No, you see a lot of them. It just they're normal people. Some
Yeah.
with huge egos, some with not huge egos. You tend to see who are the pretenders. I got enough of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the itch is not there to go back.
No, in fact, I'm gonna tell you
maybe
another
you get a call.
I'm
If you get a call, I mean,
I'm
why
gonna
not?
tell you another story. I got another call from Paul Houston, who's still there. He goes, Frank, this was back when digital was just starting. Were you interested in coming back and doing digital? And I really wasn't, but I was curious to see what the place was like. So I went there. And they could tell I was half-hearted. I was more curious, and they showed me some of the stuff, and I was like, this is not fun. And then some of the guys stopped me along the way. Hey, Frank, what are you doing here? Good to see you. He says, well, Paul's wondering if I'd be interested in coming back. And they go, you don't want to do this, Frank.
Oh wow, they told you. They're just like,
Yeah, these are guys that I
yeah.
was there in years before. He said, no, Frank is so different.
Yeah.
Don't stay away. Stay far away. But see, when you've tasted freedom,
Right. Yeah.
it would be hard to come back to that environment. Whereas if I had not had that freedom, I would think that would be the dream job.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but my personality type is I always wanted to paint. And working for George as a matte painter and working on the models, man, that was like I still pinch myself.
Yeah,
That
they
was
can't take that away from you.
Yeah.
ever. That's an incredible
yeah,
experience.
okay. I worked on 3 Star Treks. The Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, and the one after that.
The Voyage Home. is
Voyage
one of my
Home. So I
favorites.
worked on-
What did you do on Voyage Home? Because that's like one of my favorite
Yeah.
OG Star Trek. Holy crap, that's loud.
That is loud.
This is a great con, and it supports Make-A-Wish Foundation. And
This is production value right here that we're telling
Yeah.
Cody.
So
That
they're
was the
doing
one with the
Make-A-Wish.
whale, right? Where they have to find the whale.
Yes.
Yes.
Which shot did you do for
Captain, there'll be whales here.
Right. I had to paint an Earth, probably the size of up to that green little deal there.
Yeah.
So they did a pan shot of that. I had to work on a scene where the starship disappeared, so I had to paint what was behind it. And was there a Cleon ship in that movie?
that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, I worked on a Cleon ship. I did a matte
Nice.
painting for that, and working with Nimoy, that was fun, And see, I worked on Goonies, which I thought was terrible, but now everybody thinks that's just the biggest
You
thing.
thought Goonies was terrible when you were
Yeah.
working on
That's
it?
but that's generational gap too. I mean,
yeah.
my parents saw that movie with me, and they're like, "I hate this. It's just kids yelling at each other."
Yeah,
And I'm like,
it's a big.
I love it.
I know. I've had people come up to me and go, "You worked on Goonies. I love that movie. I blah 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 blah. Worked on Goonies."
What did you do? I have to know what you did in Goonies.
It's got to be the cave with the ship, right?
Yeah, I did the cave ship scene. Worked on that.
iconic, man.
And you know that
Did
scene.
you work on the squid?
What?
I was in a deleted scene, the
Yeah,
squid.
the squid.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think
Well,
so.
that was a creature, though. It was a
I
model.
worked on Back to the Future. Worked on that movie. I worked on Dark Crystal, Enemy Mine.
Oh my god. You're like naming every single movie I grew up with.
Yeah, and what else?
So
remember
they're-
Explorers?
Yes.
Oh, I love Explorers.
Worked
that was
on
River Phoenix, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Explorers.
They're bringing Dark Crystal back. It was just announced
Netflix.
that I think it's Netflix is doing
Netflix
a
is
brand
taking
new
it back.
series.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. There you
Yeah.
go. There you got
Yeah.
something to binge watch that you used to
Yeah,
work on.
never-ending story.
Oh,
Worked on.
you
Worked
know, my
on.
dog right now looks like Falcor.
Yeah, never-ending story.
It's like you're looking into my mind and reading all the VHS tapes I used to watch.
Yeah, no doubt.
And see, let me paint this picture. Just imagine working for a company where everything that you touch turns to gold. I love this podcast. Yeah, bring the kids in. Bring them all in. That's cool. Yeah, my son's there.
Here's some candy. Go away.
Yeah, think about it. They every movie they'd worked on, Star Wars, Oscar, effects, Empire Strikes Back, Oscar. We worked on E.T., Oscar, Wrath of Khan, we got an Oscar. Star Wars, Oscar, Indiana Jones, Oscar. After a while, you feel
You get your heads like really
no.
big.
Well, I don't. The company I think lost focus that there were people catching up. So, by the time Howard the Duck hit us, there were the whole Matt department essentially created their own company to compete against Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
What was that company called?
It was called Matt World.
Because
Matt World, the whole essentially, Pingrazio, eventually took Evans, took Chris Barron. They started their own company with a lot of, and I did some work for them.
They still around? I mean, that
Oh
doesn't
no, they
sound
went out.
familiar. Because I just
then
hear
they were called Matt World Digital.
Yeah, because all I hear now is ILM and Weta. I mean, Weta is the big
competing one.
big
Yeah,
competing one with ILM.
Eventually, Matt World, they were competing against them with matte paintings, and they could literally bid on a matte painting and bid and undercut them by half.
Oh yeah.
And it would look the same. Why? Because you had essentially
The same people?
The same people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, everything kind of changed after Howard the Duck, and that kind of followed. It changed after George and Marcia got divorced. The company really changed because George really needed somebody as a sounding
there,
board.
yeah. Yeah.
And she was Marcia had some major street
Pretty
cred.
smart, yeah.
She edited Taxi Driver, that De Niro movie.
Yeah.
And she edited other movies.
She edited Star Wars too.
Yeah, she edited Star Wars too.
That's incredible.
That's my inner thinking, and I have no facts to back this up whatsoever. And it's our same opinion too. Is that when he went back and did the prequels, he didn't have somebody to say no.
It's exactly right.
There we go.
Bingo.
We got the guy who worked on Star Wars telling
Yeah,
me that I'm
yeah.
right. That's how good this podcast
Yeah,
is.
anybody who's old school who want to tell you the truth will tell you that he needed somebody to say, George, that's
a little
kind of
too-
shitty.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know.
fucking chlorine? What?
Yeah.
No.
What you're gonna do that? They're gonna laugh at
Jar Jar.
Jar Jar. You know what I'm saying? And a good example. Do you remember that scene where you've got Yoda, and he's doing somersaults?
Oh, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. People started laughing. At least
Yeah.
in my theater, because it looked kind of funny. This little thing,
Yeah.
sword fighting. Somebody had to tell George it's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't look right. Although the last scene, that fight with Darth, the future Darth, we're in that
The lava.
the lava. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was
thought that
directed
was-
by Spielberg, I think, or what was
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he gave suggestions.
There was
or
some
whatever.
Yeah,
suggestions
that
in
was
there.
awesome. That was an awesome scene.
Yeah.
So there were peaks and valleys.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's always been our theory, that because usually when you're pushed to the edge, especially like artists and creative people, when
don't
you're-
they know there's a great podcast going on right now? How can they do that to you?
I don't think
go
how
down
much
there.
that. I don't think a lot of that's gonna.
Yeah.
It wasn't in our contract.
It
that we
wasn't
could've done.
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's always been our theory that when he went back and did the prequels that like he just like I was saying, like if you're a creative person, I know this of me, when you're pushed to the brink of being up against the wall, you could do two things. You can either cave or you can rise to the occasion and do. And that's what like Star Wars and Empire was like, where he had people, really creative people, pushing up against his ideas and saying like, no, that's not going to work. You know, that's why you have a room. Like I know when I bounce ideas off of BJ, it's like we go back and forth, and then I know we hit it right when we both have that like light bulb go off.
Right.
But I know if I was doing the podcast by myself, I would have had a lot of bad episodes coming out. I feel like that's what George had for the old trilogy, and in the prequels, it was all him. Yeah. It was all like, okay, maybe we shouldn't talk about trade federations or trade embargoes because that's kind of boring, you know, or not
C-SPAN
or not do space. A 15-minute pod race. Yes, it looks great, but it doesn't really
do anything
move
with
the story along too well, you know. And I feel like he needed somebody to say, I want to do this, and somebody who was not on the same equal level as him saying like, no, let's rethink this,
right?
You know, let's rethink this idea.
I don't know if you've heard with some of the other guests during the panel, there's a lot of people who are afraid of George.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of that during that time is because he himself was uncomfortable with people. Now, after we did E.T., they rented, I'm going to try to talk over this person. They rented a yacht. And there were like about 40 of us on this yacht with Spielberg, you know,
right. And
they had a barbecue. And there was George off in a corner, kind of by himself, and there was Spielberg, because it was a Spielberg movie. And I'm talking to Spielberg because he's comfortable.
He's very personable.
He's
Seems like a very personal person.
So I'm there talking to him, and other people are talking to him, and there's George right, you know, probably about 10 feet away, holding up the wall. And so when there's people who really wanted at that time to connect with him, but George just kind of projected this discomfort, just didn't know how to speak to people, and you could kind of see that in Spielberg's movies. His movies are more conversational because they really do reflect his personality. I mean, a lot of George's dialogue is kind of cornball, but that's who he is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he created the ultimate nerd culture.
Yeah.
I mean, the ultimate nerd culture, other than like Star Trek, but you know, I think Star Wars is a little bit more pop culture than more mainstream, I should say, than Star Trek. Well, you can, you know, I mean, it's a stereotype, but you can be on the football team and love Star Wars and you wouldn't get made fun of.
Right.
You can't do the same thing sometimes with, like, back in the day in Star Trek. You know, it wouldn't be looked at the same way.
Yeah.
Do you think that his uncomfortableness hurt the prequels, where he was surrounding people more with would say yes?
See, I don't know. I don't know that. I just hear what I get from some of the older employees, but I just, you know, to be truthful, I can just relate what it was like when I was there.
Right.
You know, and I mean, he was great in the screening room. He would tell you exactly what he felt. You know, that's great. You got the pointer there. And
was he a good boss? Like versus like Spielberg, like I mean, those are the two meccas in our generation.
I got no story for you. When Spielberg, Spielberg was very much a people person.
Yeah.
When we were working on Indiana Jones, at that time there was this guy, Body by Jake.
Yeah.
So he was there. Evidently, he was Spielberg's trainer.
Wow.
So Spielberg had brought in these games back in about when was Indiana Jones? About 85.
The first one.
Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom.
Oh, Temple of Doom. Oh, it was like 80. When was Temple of Doom? 87, 88, 86?
Temple of Doom was 83.
83?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. 80 was because what they did was they would have Star Wars and then Indiana Jones and then Star Wars again.
Yeah.
That's what they would do.
Well, I can keep going. Well, if you remember that era, remember you could go into these venues that had all these games that you could play, those video type games.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
And one of them was kind of like Drag Racer. Another one was some other game. Anyway, Spielberg brought two of those games to ILM. So I saw that one. There was this one game that I liked, and so I was playing it, and Steven Spielberg's right next to me, and we're both playing the game, and I'm looking at his scores, looking at so we're playing, and finally, producer comes over and goes, Steve, we're shooting a scene. He goes, literally, he goes, I can't. I'm at 130,000. I can't quit. We're both in there for another 20 minutes playing the game. You know,
you could do that if you're Spielberg.
I know.
Any other guy, they'd be like, you're fired.
Yeah,
get somebody else in here.
But see, that's who he was. You know, he's still kind of a
I heard
kid.
that about him. He was just like a really goofy, like a big kid.
Yeah, you know, that's a great story. You know, again, I'm sure the production person.
They didn't appreciate it.
Didn't appreciate it because you're holding it up, but he's paying for it. The movie came out great. Everybody loved it, you know. So it was that type of company.
Yeah. You got to be a really comfortable filmmaker, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have your own gallery in Auburn. How did that come about? I mean, has that been a lifelong dream of yours to have something where people can come and take a look and talk to you? And
right. I always fancied myself as a painter. I mean, I love Star Wars. So, you know, I never saw myself going into digital because that's not me, you know. And I'm a big proponent. You're at your best when you're the happiest and when you really love something. So I was there at ILM at the right time when I could paint. You know what I'm saying? Where I can help build something. So that's what I was there for. So I literally saw the writing on the wall that they were going to go digital. And so I made my career as an illustrator. You know, I did a project for the White House. You know,
I heard about that.
Oh, yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I saw the
when
picture
Bush
on
was
your
in
site.
office, so right? Bush Jr.?
Yeah. And I got invited to, you know, his library opening.
That's
kinda
awesome.
King for a day at the White House. So I've
How
done
did you get that gig?
Well, I illustrated a book, and my wife saw that Laura Bush used to would like to read books to school children. So my wife sent a book to the White House, and I went, that would never. What are you wasting your time?
Right.
Well, I get a call from the White House. Literally, there's another call, a second grade call. But I wasn't home. My wife picked up the phone, and she goes, "Guess what?" I go, "What?" "You got a call from the White House." And
You're
again,
like, get the
yeah,
out of here.
I thought I was being pranked by my friend. And so sure enough, they said, "We love this book. We think you'd be perfect to be the artist for the Easter egg roll." I'd never heard of it, you know?
No, that's the first time I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, it's a big deal if you're in the East Coast. It's a huge deal. And then my other thing was I wanted to have my own gallery.
Yeah.
So I've kind of done what I've loved to do because that's how you can stay passionate. And that's how you can really stay motivated. You know, it's
Absolutely.
nothing worse than getting up in the morning going, "Oh, I got to do this." You know, I mean, I love what I do.
Say, whoever put together your website did a good job because I was like floating around in there, you know, and I think your website you were able to like walk around your gallery. I think.
Yeah.
Video. It was really trippy.
Yeah. Well, I have to do a shout out to Fine Art Studio Online, Fauzo. So they picked me as being one of their supported artists. You know.
Cool.
So they redid my whole website for free, and did a big.
Nice, because the value on that's
I
really
know.
sweet.
Because they contact me one day and they go, "Okay, we'd like you to be a feature, you know, one of our supported artists. We'll redo your website. We'd like to interview you. We're going to send out a professional photographer to photograph you, and blah 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 blah." And then I go, "Okay, how much is this going to cost me?" And they go, "No, for free. You know, you just have to, you know, judge one of our shows and say some nice things about."
Because the website is slick.
Our
It doesn't look cheap.
Oh no, yeah,
it
that's
looks
pretty
like
good.
A lot of value to it.
Yep.
So we're getting close to our hour, so we don't want
Okay.
to keep you over. You can stay over if you want, but we don't.
No,
We try to be
I love
respectful of the
talking, you
time.
know.
Is there anything you'd like to plug right now that you're? I know you're doing the 40th thing, but that's not an open
Yeah.
invitation apparently.
Yeah.
The 40th anniversary.
Well, I always like plugging my gallery. If you happen to be in
Absolutely.
Auburn,
There
you go.
if you're in Auburn, come 843 Lincoln Way. You can see some of my Star Wars memorabilia. I almost said paraphernalia. That's going back to in my 20s. I meant
Vader bong.
memorabilia. And you can see my career now is as a fine artist. I do a lot of portraits and fine arts. I was just 12 days over in Zion and Grand Canyon painting.
Oh my
I mean, this
gosh.
is the lifestyle that I
That's
love.
amazing.
I go out and I paint, and people pay me for it. They pay me for my paintings. It's great.
We're still trying to figure out how to get paid for this.
Yeah, and you will. But see, that's George collects actual artwork.
Yeah.
from
I've heard. Well,
Rockwell.
he's trying to open a museum, correct?
Right,
In
and it's
LA.
and it's his collection, and so he's a lover of that sort of work, and I grew up on that, and so when you grow up with something that you really love, and it connects with you, it's almost like it's so much captured your spirit, your soul, and your imagination that's what you want to do. See, I've never let go of that.
That's for us in Star Wars. I mean, that's been a huge passion of ours, but also that's just the catalyst of us and our conversations that we have on a day-to-day basis, that we decided finally one day, why aren't we recording this for other people to listen to? I mean, we enjoy it. Maybe other people enjoy hearing us talk about stupid shit that we like.
Well, have you guys been to any of the Star Wars celebrations?
Oh yeah, we went
to
to
two. That's how we met, is online at Star Wars Celebration.
Which one?
Celebration 3.
3, the one in it was
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Let's go to how far back is that?
Right
2005.
before, it was the summer before Revenge of the Sith, I think.
like a
the
month, like
summer
2 weeks
over-
before.
Oh, you said,
Revenge of the Sith.
okay. Because my first one was Kicking and Screaming. Went to the one down in Anaheim a couple years ago.
Oh, Celebration 7.
We were there. We were there too.
We were
Yeah.
there too.
We might have seen you. We might have seen. We saw everything.
I was just blown away by how huge,
Oh,
how big this thing was.
I think this
I
year
had,
was even bigger.
I had
in
no
Florida.
clue, And this kid walks up to me to sign a book, and I'm like, because really, other than hardcore Star Wars fans, there were lines for Carrie Fisher that were like almost out the door.
Oh yeah.
And then I see some of my buddies who worked on the movie who are signing. There's like maybe 2 or 3 people in line for them. These are people who worked on the models, on the creatures.
Listen, anything has to do with Star Wars, they're rock stars in our book. I mean, we would have been happy to talk to a grip, on the movie or anybody involved, because there's always some sort of story, something that kind of connects us. Brings me back to my childhood. I've said that 1,000 times. So, those conventions are great because you get to talk to like-minded people. Because where I live, it's a small town up north, and I might have one friend that I can talk to about that stuff. Other than that, it's like you go to those conventions, like everybody is talking about it.
And you know what? It's all. I'm sorry, your name is
BJ.
BJ.
Yeah.
Okay. BJ, it's global.
Yeah.
You could go anywhere, BJ, and if you have like a Star Wars T-shirt on, you can make friends.
Oh yeah.
It's like
I get that all the time. I have like a rebellion hat, and people all the time pull me aside and go, "Oh, dude, like you like Star Wars?" I'm like,
Yeah, I almost brought my Howard the Duck jacket, because after every,
That would have been great.
that would have been awesome.
because after every movie, we would get. Eventually, I got so jaded. I regret now. I gave my stuff away.
Oh.
But after Jedi, we got sweatshirts and T-shirts, and you get the hats. After Indiana Jones, we all got Levi jackets. We just got a lot of merch.
That's awesome.
And so you carry that stuff around.
Are they going to? Do you know at the ILM party? Are they going to do like a shirt, like a commemorative hat or shirt?
I think
for
if
that?
somebody's smart, they will.
Yeah.
But I think what's probably going to come out is they're probably going to. I'm sure somebody's going to take a photograph of all of us there on the sound stage.
That's so cool. I hope I get to see that
I
online
never.
somewhere.
I never met John Dykstra because he was there on the first one.
Yeah,
And
he's-
by
he's
Jedi, he was gone.
Yeah.
I remember meeting Ellen Shaw in passing. I hope he attends. So there's a lot. I mean,
That's
Chris
so cool.
Evans, who I worked with, I haven't seen him in years, so I'll be reunited with him. there's a lot of these old friends of mine that I want to see.
That's awesome. It's
And-
like a family reunion, or like
It-
a high school reunion.
Yeah, it is. But in this case, it's not having, pass through the torment of some a goofy teacher. We actually
Right.
produce something.
All right.
So we're gonna have to wrap this up. It
Okay.
looks like we got
big
Andrew
guy.
here next. We
Vader.
got Vader next.
You want him to force
so
choke us, so.
Every interview we always do, we give the same 3 questions. It's called the
Okay.
Big Finish.
The big finish.
The
I
Big
got it.
Finish. So, all-time favorite character can be from any genre.
All-time favorite character.
It could be from comic books, TVs,
Hey,
movies.
Christopher Walken, the J-Man.
Hey,
That's not really a character. That's the guy.
that's a guy. For which movie?
Envy.
Envy.
Or the dude.
The dude.
The dude.
The dude. I like the dude.
That's a character, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it Jeff Bridges?
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
What would you get the dude a gift?
What
For
would
his
you-
birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, give him. I have to definitely give him. What do you make himself? Black Russian.
A white Russian.
White Russian.
Yeah, yep.
Okay,
yep.
get him that little glass.
Oh.
And maybe fill up his ice chest with all that with the what you call it, the ingredients.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Awesome. So right now, we talked a little bit about binge watching and whatnot. What are you watching right now? What's your go-to show right now that you're watching on TV?
Big
that you've
time.
DVR'd? Or
Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul.
Yes.
Awesome. So, if Saul had a choice
Yeah.
to choose a choice of transportation, would he choose Kit, the car? Remember Kit from Knight Rider? Airwolf, the helicopter, or Street Hawk, the motorcycle? Which one would he choose?
Oh, Street Hog, the motorcycle.
Saul would be
remember that show?
Saul would be a motorcycle guy.
Yeah.
Do you remember that show, Street Hawk?
No.
It was only like 2 seasons.
It was on for like a minute.
Yeah. All right. The last question
Why
is
not?
top 3 all-time favorite movies.
Jedi.
Nice.
You got it. Okay, you got it. Godfather.
Okay.
Okay.
Third. Oh my gosh. What about Bob? There you go.
Oh, my
that was
gosh.
so out of left field.
We've
That's
seen,
Dude.
and a big fourth it would be Nacho Libre.
Nacho.
Nacho.
so different from the first 2.
My
Well,
favorite.
see,
my favorite.
I've changed,
My favorite part in What About Bob is
Yeah.
when Richard Dreyfuss is so mad, he yells, and it's so incoherent. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Like
Yeah.
this.
So it's just
I still say that to this day.
well, the line that I copy all the time when I go, "What's your name?" and I'll miss it, and I go, "Close."
yeah.
Okay, guys.
So thank you again for coming on the podcast. We like to give gifts for our people that come on for the interviews. So we know you're artists. We are not artists, hence why we have stick figures as our logo.
I like it.
So we decided to give you an official Chew on This matte painting,
I like this.
paint by numbers.
I love this. This is cool.
It's one of a kind.
It's
So
wait,
we need you to describe what you're looking at into the because
it's as realistic as these two guys can make of one guy without.
that's you actually.
Is that me?
Yeah, with a hat on because on your site you're wearing a baseball cap with your glasses and you're painting.
Well, what happened to my left arm?
Well, it's a stick figure, so
Oh, okay.
so
You're
as
a
you
little
can see, you have the ET finger there.
Yeah. Well, I'll only accept it if you guys sign this. You guys have a pen?
Oh yeah, we'll
yeah,
sign
yeah.
it. We'll definitely sign it.
We got to do it now because you guys are gonna be busy.
Let's take a picture of it real quick with you holding it. We'll take a picture real quick.
Wait.
There we go.
So Frankie, thanks so much for
We gotta do
coming
this real
on.
quick, but I want you guys to sign it.
Okay.
That's gonna go in my
Frank.
memorabilia.
No, is there
Thank
gonna
you,
go in my
Frank.
memory.
Thank you very much, Frank.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate it. You taking your time out of your busy schedule Anything else you want to add there?
No, thanks again, and I can't wait to see the picture in your memorabilia of
Great.
that. Thanks again, Frank.
Hanging up,
Vic.
hanging up in your
Vic.
gallery. No, I'm just kidding.
Thanks. Thanks, Vic.